beard? The beard good?
And in today's... Do I want to say before we dive into the content?
In today's episode, Sam forgets how to speak.
Tastes like justice.
You're listening to the Social Geek Scene podcast, your scene for all the geek things.
Hey everyone, I'm Sam.
And I am Jeremiah.
And in today's podcast, we wanted to ask you guys an important question. What is your social geek scene? Are you someone who's super into the movies, into TV shows? Are you a gamer? Are you into tabletop games?
Video games, comic books.
And so what is your social geek scene? And Jeremiah, what is your social geek scene?
My social geek scene, I know me and my buddies love going to see all the big Marvel, the big DC movies. We already have tickets to Captain America, Civil War. Super pumped for that. Sunday nights we hang out. We play a board game called Legendary with like Marvel characters. Super cool. And we watch Daredevil. We're going to MegaCon soon. Those are the things that are in my social geek scene.
Mm-hmm. And who's in your social geek scene?
You know, just some of my boys, some of my bros, some of my geeky friends who love geeking out. You're in it, obviously.
I'm in it.
Yeah. So just some of my boys that like talking about all the geek things, comic books, movies, TV, all of it.
Yeah, and
It's awesome.
there's a lot of big events coming up too that our social geek scene is going to be a part of. It's going to be so much fun. We have MegaCon coming up.
MegaCon.
Which is the big convention here in Orlando, and that's Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
I'm very excited about that.
It's going to be fun.
But first, we do have International Tabletop Day coming up
Yes.
Saturday, April 30th.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to be hosting it. It's going to be at First Alliance Church, Orlando. It's going to be a ton of fun playing tabletop games. We're going to be watching our favorite superhero movies. Specifically, we're going to have a Captain America theme since Civil War is coming out the following weekend.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Why not?
Let's do it.
There's going to be a raffle. There's going to be free food. It's a free event. It's going to be so much fun. And
great.
I just love having the opportunity to expand our social geek scene.
Yes, it's going to be an awesome time. If you want more information about that, you can check out our website, socialgeekscene.com. So I think that wraps up what is your social geek scene. But we do want to hear from you guys. So what is your social geek scene? Leave your answers in the comments below. We want to know what geeky things you're into and where you're going and what you're doing. So let us know. Sam, I think we should jump into the content for today. What do you say?
I'm ready. Let's go for it.
Let's do it.
The first thing I want to talk about this week, a new trailer just came out.
A big one.
Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which is the first movie in a series of standalone Star Wars movies that are coming out. I'm super excited about this movie.
Yeah, it's crazy that Star Wars Episode 7 just came out and we're already getting another Star Wars type of film.
Right.
Super cool.
But it's not Episode 8.
It's not.
It's going in a different direction, different time and place.
Yeah.
And it's this movie stars Felicity Jones as the main character, which she's great. She's been in a ton of movies that we love. And I'm really looking forward to this. But I saw this trailer. I got super excited. I wasn't know what to expect about this movie since it's not like Episode 8, 9, like in this that storyline. But it looks fantastic.
Is it going to be a trilogy, do we know? Or is it just kind of one and done type of films? Or what do you think we're getting from the Rogue One?
As far as I know, this movie is by itself a standalone. It's not the first part of a trilogy. And a lot of people have been asking, when does this movie take place? Where is it in the timeline?
Yeah, that's a great question because Episode 7 just came out, and now we're getting a trailer for Rogue One. It might be a little confusing if they're not super into the Star Wars scene. So when does this take place? Is it after Episode 7? Because that would kind of be what your first logic on that is.
Well, if this helps, I believe this is a prequel movie to Episode 4, A New Hope, which featured, the beginning of Luke Skywalker,
Princess Leia, Han Solo.
Right. But this takes place after Episode 3, but closer to Episode 4, when the Empire is at its peak, and you have the Rebel Alliance formed. And the premise of this movie is that they are looking to find the plans to the Death Star to figure out a way to destroy it.
Right.
Which is something they talked about in episode 4. In that mission, this movie is that mission. And so I think we might see Darth Vader in this movie, which is great. Which is he's one of the greatest villains.
I would love that
in movies of all time.
Yes.
And so
I am your father.
And so we're going to see a lot of the Empire, I think, in this movie. And visually, the way the trailer looked, it looked very much like the original trilogy of episode 4, 5, and 6 of that time period.
Right.
And they're doing a great job of making it feel like it's a part of that universe.
Yeah. I'm glad they're really focusing on the continuity of the Star Wars universe, which is great. So episodes 1, 2, and 3, that's Anakin. He is becoming Darth Vader.
Right.
And then now, a little while after that, before episodes 4 through 6 and 7, which just came out, we have Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So it's kind of like Star Wars 3.5, if you will.
I think with movies like this, they're filling in the gaps where we don't know what happened over that time period.
Right.
And there's a lot of good stories that can be told, and they're just kicking it off with Rogue One. And I think it's gonna be fantastic.
Can't wait. And when does that come out?
It comes out this year, December 2016.
That's awesome.
Merry Christmas. A couple weeks ago, we had the Supergirl Flash crossover episode where we had Grant Gustin, who plays the Flash on the CW, crossover into a Supergirl episode, which is on CBS. Flash has been toying with the multiverse on their show.
He's crossing universes and now networks. He's hit the big time as a speedster.
Right. And it was a very fun episode to see those two join forces.
Yeah.
And he's in another universe and he's trying to find his way home.
Yeah, but both shows are so lighthearted that putting them together just really works easily.
Right. And both of them were actually Supergirl. They both played on Glee, the show Glee together, which was kind of interesting. I didn't know if they were going to break out into a song and dance in this episode. They didn't.
Darn.
I wouldn't have been disappointed if they had, but, it didn't fit the context of the show. But anyways, Jeremiah, what happened on this episode?
So... kind of leading up to the episode, Supergirl had a little run-in with red kryptonite.
Okay.
And so emotionally, she did some things she didn't want to do. She said some things to her friends that she didn't want to say. Because, red kryptonite makes Kryptonians do some pretty crazy things.
It kind of lowers their inhibitions and they say what's on their mind.
Exactly.
No filter.
So she was going through that. She's feeling a little down, little emotional, trying to prove herself again. I feel like she's always been trying to prove herself.
Right.
But even now more so than ever. So Flash entered the scene. He kind of bust out through a wormhole or breach or whatever, and saves Supergirl. She gets knocked out of a building by Silver Banshee, brand new character on this show. Leading up to her, super cool.
He saves her, runs into the middle of nowhere. He's just running super fast. He can't even stop himself. And she's in her civilian clothing, but she's not like weirded out about who he is. Then she like rips open her shirt and it's like the Supergirl outfit uniform, and she just flies away. And he's just like, "Where am I?" Because they haven't introduced Superman or Supergirl on the Flash TV show yet.
Correct. So what is interesting is that Supergirl actually doesn't know this Flash. So the Flash is from a different Earth.
Earth 1.
So this Supergirl isn't really Earth 1 Supergirl. Is that right? Or how is this whole thing
I think
working?
that's correct. What we've seen on Flash is Earth 1, Earth 2, which is very different. And now they're introducing Supergirl's Earth as Earth 3, I believe, just to make it work. So that's how they're kind of fixing that problem.
I thought it was a really fun episode. We get to see a new villain, Silver Banshee. She's brand new. We get to see Livewire, an older Supergirl villain. We get to see this awesome team up of Flash and Supergirl zipping around and flying around and doing all this stuff, which felt really cool, like a great like superhero TV show, because you have a speedster, like the camera angles and the shots, and like you have all the flashing, and you just have all the eye candy that a superhero show needs. And I thought that was really great. It just was kind of very comic booky as you're watching it, and I thought they did a great job with that.
Right, and they kind of had Flash, Supergirl become besties really fast. It's like they found another superhero like themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like that person who's been kind of missing in their life that they could relate to. And I know that made Jimmy Olsen a little bit jealous.
Jimmy got jelly.
Yeah. Jimmy got jelly. I like it. And so, because Supergirl is just kind of like pining over the Flash a little bit. And Jimmy apparently has feelings for Supergirl, Kara. And we see that play out in the episode. But eventually, the two team up. They defeat Livewire, Silver Banshee, and Supergirl helps Flash get back home. They kind of race at the end of the episode, and she throws him so fast that it opens up a portal, and that's the end of the episode. Well, that's not quite the end of the episode, is it?
It's not. But before that, with the whole red kryptonite and saving her kind of feeling down, she actually gets like hit down by the villains of the episode, and the city actually steps up and kind of intervenes and kind of saves her. And I thought that was really cool. And then, the firefighters like shoot the hose on live wire,
pure electricity,
shocks the two villains. And then the firefighter reaches his hand down and he says, "It's our turn to save you." I thought that was really cool, because now the city is like, hey, you risked your life for us. Like, even though, you went crazy, we'll forgive you. Right. So that's kind of back. And then at the very end, Supergirl and Jimmy share a kiss, and she's kind of waiting like, hey, do you feel the same way for me? And Jimmy's like,
blank face, zombie face.
He just walks out, and then you see other people walking out. You don't know what's going on. And then the very last scene, Non is there with some Kryptonian or some sort of tech. He has some sort of tech device, and he's like mind controlling the city.
And Non is kind of the main villain behind the scenes for season 1.
Yeah.
Who's a Kryptonian.
So, really cool episode. It's leading to a bigger story arc and leaving you guessing what's going to happen next. And I love that about that show.
Great episode. Moving back over, still in the DC universe, to the CW, Legends of Tomorrow, new episode this past week. They went into the future, which is always fun. Always cool to see, what things could be like, with technology growing, all that stuff. What do we kind of see in this episode, Jeremiah?
Oh, we saw so many things. They're in the future, which is really cool. We got flying robots that are actually
they're like policemen.
Like policemen. They're part of Adam's suit technology, which they find out, and they also find out that those like super robot police soldiers are going to be like the demise of the Earth, or they're going to play a big part in the demise of Earth and Vandal Savage coming to power, because the technology is going to be used for evil.
Right.
Vandal Savage is training up this kid, and this kid's going to be like the next Adolf Hitler, like super bad dude. So Rip Hunter captures him, and he's about to kill him to save the world, but he has the gun pointed at the kid, which is crazy, and then he can't do it. He can't pull the trigger, which I really like that about Rip Hunter's character, because even though he was basically saying, I will do absolutely anything to change time, to alter the timeline, to save my wife and son,
who were killed by Vandal Savage.
And the whole time he's wanting to do anything it takes, but he can't do anything. He can't just cold-blooded kill for his family, right. which is cool, because it shows that there's goodness in him, and there is a line that he has to still draw for himself, which in turn has to draw for his team.
Right. They can't just do anything
Right.
to protect the timeline or to
Yes.
save the future of humanity. You just don't cross that line.
Yeah. And so I like how even though they're a ragtag team of kind of heroes and kind of villains with Heat Wave and
Captain Cold.
Captain Cold, that there's still lines that they're going to draw, moral lines that they're going to draw and stick to those and, become legends and heroes.
And another kind of side story that's going on is the relationship between Mick, Heatwave, and Snark, who is Captain Cold, because we saw Mick kind of betray the team in a couple episodes ago. But then we see Mick is back as he's working for the Time Masters.
Yes. He's a bounty hunter.
He's a bounty hunter.
Hunting his own team down now.
And so when we see that revelation, it's like, I didn't see that coming. And I thought that's a great kind of direction for that character. He's not just some silly villain who just likes to destroy stuff.
Yeah, a lot of character
development.
A lot of character development with him. He was very kind of one-dimensional, like, I'm on this team, but I have my own agenda, and I'm just going to try to, like, help me. I'll help the team out here and there. I'll be a hired gun, but I'm ultimately looking out for me. And now with this whole Time Master thing, he's kind of been brainwashed a little, and it seems like he's kind of turning back to himself. But there's a lot going on.
The
with
team takes him down. His name is Kronos. That's what they knew him as. When they took off his helmet, it's him. They capture him, and they're trying to kind of rehabilitate him a little bit and say, hey, you're one of us. We're sorry. I mean, you betrayed us, and we didn't want to get rid of you. It's just what we had to do, and they're trying to mend that relationship, especially Snark, since he's his partner.
Right.
Back in 2016, Central City. So that's been a cool dynamic. I've liked what they've done with that character, moving forward like that, giving him a little bit more of a role in a story, not just a hired henchman or hired gun.
Another cool thing is the little situation with the Atom and Hawkgirl. They get stranded in time for 2 years. So they end up actually
starting a life together.
And then the team, they can't go back to that exact time because time would fold in on itself. So they have to pick them up 2 years later. And it's kind of that was kind of a weird mental shift. So now you have these two characters, but now they have 2 years of history just kind of thrown in the show. And they have this relationship that's totally different. So, and then you have Hawkgirl with all her past lives. So you have a lot of mental shifts and emotional shifts going on in the show.
Right. I mean, it's okay, we're back to normal, back to reality, but we can't forget about those 2 years. We fell in love. We created a life. And I knew it was hard for the Atom, Ray Palmer, to kind of pick up those pieces and move on. And so, dealing with time travel, there's so much that you can do with that, so much that comes into play. And they're really kind of researching that on the show, and it's been very entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I like how it's kind of not the villain of the week format. It's kind of the timeline of the week, and they're, in the future. I think there's a Wild Wild West episode coming up, so we're always somewhere else, and we're always doing something else, and I think that's
they're going to be
really
introducing
fun.
Jonah Hex, major DC character.
Yes.
I don't know too much about him, but I know he will be introduced in that Wild West episode. So that's something to look forward to. If you haven't watched Legends of Tomorrow, it's a great show. Tune in. It's on Thursdays, 8 o'clock on the CW.
And it ties in directly with Flash and Arrow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, speaking of Arrow.
So, this week on Arrow, P.S. spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the last episode, there are going to be spoilers. So, spoiler warning has been cast. And let us continue. There was a death on Team Arrow. Black Canary is no more. Wow. Sam, your thoughts? I know you are so troubled about this.
I have no idea what these writers are thinking. Why in the world would you kill off a major character, comic book canon character. This isn't Game of Thrones, guys. You can't just kill off a main character every single episode.
But they did.
Black Canary, Laurel Lance, after a year and a half of being Black Canary, is dead. She's a Justice League member.
Yeah.
And actually is married to, or at least together with the Green Arrow in the comic books. And you just killed her off.
And she's gone.
And this isn't the first time the Black Canary has been killed off on this show. Why? I don't understand the writing with this. Listen, her sister, Sarah, thought to be dead.
Yep.
Find out she's back. She's the first Black Canary. Then she gets killed. Then they bring her back to life. Okay? Then her sister takes up the mantle of Black Canary, who is the original Black Canary in the comic books. And now she's dead. The same old song and dance over and over again. Are you running out of things to do on the show? It would have made such a bigger impact on the story because we saw Damien Dark, who's the main villain of this season, threaten Captain Lance that he was going to kill his daughter, who is Laurel, who is the Black Canary. And so we saw that go back and forth, that threat, and Captain Lance having to want to protect his daughter. It would have made so much more sense for Lance to die, for him to sacrifice himself for his daughter. He's been on the show 4 seasons, a loved character. He's been great. That would have been a great ending for his character, him sacrificing for his daughter who he loves. We've seen both of his daughters die on this show. How much more can this guy take?
He's been through a lot.
He is dead on the inside anyways. So, or Felicity dying. Listen, I know people like the Felicity-Oliver relationship.
Olicity.
Olicity?
Yeah.
Olicity? Something
Olicity.
But we thought that maybe Felicity died in the mid-season finale of this season.
Right, because we've been getting teasers of the funeral scene.
There's a funeral
Something's
scene
going down.
But also, she and Oliver were attacked in a limo, and she was gunned down, which actually caused her to be paralyzed from the waist down, not dead.
Right.
It would have made sense to kill her off.
See, I thought it was going to be Felicity's mom because it's kind of a weird thing to think, but I think it would have affected... I think it would have hurt Captain Lance because they're kind of dating. It would have hurt Team Arrow because that's Felicity's mom. So I feel like she was like right in the middle. So if Damien Dark, put the hit on her, it would have kind of affected everyone equally, but they didn't go that route. And I'm glad she's alive.
Yeah. But
I think your problem, Sam, is that they're driving so far away from kind of the Arrow canon.
Right.
And at least right now, we don't know if something crazy is going to happen where they bring her back.
Okay, listen, if they bring her back, you're telling us you're running out of good ideas. Because we've seen that already on this show. The Black Canary dying, coming back.
Arrow pretty much dying, coming back.
We don't need to see that.
Thea dying, coming back.
Arrow is one of my favorite shows, but Marvel has always done a little bit better job with story writing, in my opinion. And this simple decision right here proves that these guys are either running out of ideas or they just really think killing people and bringing them back is like the best thing ever, which it's not. So please stop.
Yeah, I know. Normally when we watch Arrow, every end is cool and all the cliffhangers are great. And then when something crazy happens on the show, we're like, oh my gosh, but we get it. This was, I feel, the first time Arrow, it ended and we're all just kind of like, excuse me? Like, what? What is happening? Why? What is happening? What's going on? This doesn't make any sense. Now let's talk about this. She is actually going to be on The Flash in a future episode.
The actress Katie Cassidy.
Katie Cassidy in Earth 2 version.
her doppelganger.
Yes.
And she's actually playing Black Siren.
Yes.
Which is kind of the Black Canary, that version of it for the Justice Guild of America, which is a older version of the Justice League, Justice Society of America. So they're giving her some areas that she can still play in the universe. But if listen, if you're listening, watching, Arrow producers, executives, whatever, give me a call. Let's have a discussion because I don't know what you're doing, and we need to talk about that.
Sam is sad. Sam is hurt. Sam is salty right now.
A little bit.
This is you've seen Up Sam before. This is not Up Sam. Sam is down. Sad Sam. Hey, let's talk about something and get you.
Well, I'll
Turn
just
that
say this.
frown
Don't
upside
stop
down.
watching Arrow if you are, or don't let this keep you from starting to watch the show, because it
not
really
gonna
is a
stop
good
us.
show. The story of the Green Arrow, Oliver
Yes.
Queen, has been a great story, especially with the flashbacks to his time on the island,
Yes.
which have been, I think could be a episode unto themselves.
Talk about your theory on Arrow's isolation, Oliver Queen's isolation. So this death just happened. He said the team is falling apart.
Right.
And then we're also correlating with the island right now. And we know, leading up to season 5.
Okay, we know Oliver was on the island for 5 years.
Correct.
Now, he wasn't always on the island. He was in Hong Kong.
Had some different adventures, different
Right.
places.
He had been kidnapped, taken other places to do certain things. But he's back on the island. And the present timeline and the time on the island, they've been kind of parallel with each other and some events that have been happening. But we did hear Oliver say in this episode the team's kind of falling apart. And we know
Felicity just left.
Felicity left the team. Laurel is now dead. There's a lot
John Diggle, there's a lot of stuff with him and his brother right now because
who works for Damien Dark.
Kind of turned. There's some awkwardness with them. Thea's kind of just crazy.
Right, dealing with Malcolm Merlin, her father.
Yeah.
That's a character I wouldn't mind seeing gone on the show. I think he's played himself out. Hint, hint. And so, but the team's falling apart. We know, at least my theory, the 5th year on the island, that is when Oliver is the most alone. He's by himself, living on the island, training, becoming that person who would eventually become the Green Arrow. I think we're going to see the same thing in season 5 in the present, of the team falling apart and him having to go on his own.
So an isolated Oliver Queen on the island is also going to be a parallel to real-time Oliver Queen as the Green Arrow, but now very isolated.
Kind of taking on the city by himself instead of the team, which has been the past few seasons. So I think that could be a really good direction dynamic for the show, because Green Arrow is, he's a solo act usually. He's had sidekicks, but he's always kind of been his own man and hero, dealing with fighting crime in Star City. So that's kind of where I think they're going with the show. It'll be interesting. We're heading into the last part of this season. See, the season finale is coming up soon. So I'm looking forward to the ending of the season and the resolution that they have with Damien Dark.
Yes. Need to see some resolution with that.
Yeah. Something that we can look forward to, Game of Thrones Season 6 is coming out at the end of this month in April.
Speaking of killing off main characters.
Right. A lot of cliffhangers at the end of Season 5. I know you're not caught up quite with Season 5,
there.
so I'm not going to spoil anything for Jeremiah.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
But I love Game of Thrones. Very exciting.
Everyone's just going to comment spoilers. And I'm going to be like, no, why am I reading these comments?
So I know that's a show that we watch in our social geek scene, you and I do. And looking forward to this next season. Season 5 was great. And it's just one of the shows that we like to watch. We are in the middle of Daredevil Season 2. We're not rushing through it.
Taking our sweet time.
And each episode, it just gets us more and more excited for the next one.
It's been so great.
And it takes a lot to keep us from, all right, just next episode.
Yeah.
We have to keep each other accountable. No doing it by ourselves on our own. We watch it together as a social geek scene community. And it's been a lot of fun. We definitely encourage you guys to do that with your friends, family members. It's just fun to talk about it, watch it together, and be excited about things like this.
Yes.
So,
well, Sam, I very much so enjoyed your rant on Arrow today. But that's all the time we have this week for the Social Geek Scene. I am Jeremiah.
I am Sam.
And this was the Social Geek Scene. We will see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, connect with us on the socials, and online at socialgeekscene.com.